The bell didn't just ring this time. It screamed. The sound tore through the chamber like a blade, fracturing the floor beneath their feet. Ayo collapsed, his body writhing, the mark on his arm now searing through skin, glowing like molten gold. His eyes rolled back. His mouth opened in a silent cry. Chinelo threw herself against the bell and shouted, "Stop!" And it did. Everything stopped. The glow, the sound, even the dust in the air. Frozen. Then a deep silence, deeper than death, blanketed the room. The obsidian bell began to shimmer with a different kind of light, softer now. It rippled like water, and the surface of the bell began to change. It became reflective. A mirror. Chinelo stared at it, and the bell stared back. She saw herself, but not just as she was. She saw every version of herself the loop had consumed. Dozens, hundreds, one after another, all with the same scar, all trapped in the same cycle. And behind them the faces of others, students, teachers, prefects, forgotten by history, absorbed by the bell. AC stood among them, her mouth still stitched shut. Tears ran down Chinelo's cheeks. I didn't know. I didn't remember. A crack formed in the mirror, not from anger, but release. Chinelo stepped closer and placed her palm against her own reflection. I forgive you, she whispered, and I ask your forgiveness too. The mirror flared white and shattered. All around them the chamber came alive with rushing air and echoes, fragments of voices once silenced now freed, names, laughter, cries, prayers. Ayo gasped and sat up. The mark on his arm faded. Gone. The number, 0. Kwame stared in awe. You stopped the final ring. But Chinelo was still frozen, because the bell, now cracked and still, had spoken one final word. Remember. For the first time since the bell rang, the air was still. No pulsing, no shifting walls, no ink trails. The chamber at the heart of Abongweni felt real, solid. The cracked obsidian bell sat silent in its cradle, its surface no longer shimmering with memories. But Chinelo wasn't moving. She stood with her hand still pressed where the mirror had been, her eyes distant. Inside her, something had shifted, something ancient and unfinished. Zinzi approached cautiously. Chinelo, are you okay? Chinelo slowly turned her head. I remember everything now. Not just Isi. All of them. Every loop. Every time the bell rang. The ones we couldn't save. The ones who begged to be forgotten. Kwame looked around. So, did we win? No, Chinelo said, her voice hollow. We paused it. Ayo, still recovering from his near consumption, sat against the wall. Then what do we do? Destroy the bell? Chinelo shook her head. It's not a thing. It's a prison. If we break it, the memories get out. Unbound. It's not about breaking it. It's about burying it where it can't be called again. Kwame narrowed his eyes. Then we need to hide it. Somewhere beyond reach. There's a place, Chinelo said, lifting the journal. New pages had filled in, drawings of an ancient forest, a place older than the school. The roots go deep there. The soil doesn't remember. Zinzi frowned. The earth forgets? It silences, Chinelo replied. And the bell fears silence. Suddenly, a soft gust of wind blew through the chamber, though there were no windows. A voice whispered through the cracks in the stone. It is not over. Behind them, a second bell, smaller, unseen before, appeared where Mudiwa's body had lain. Its surface glowed with one word. Chosen. Ayo's mark was gone. But someone else had been claimed. No one moved. The second bell sat quietly, its surface smooth and untouched by time, smaller, yet pulsing with a heartbeat none of them could hear, but all of them could feel. Where did that come from? Kwame whispered. Chinelo approached it cautiously. It wasn't here before. It appeared when Mudiwa. Her voice trailed off. It's not a replacement. It's an echo. Ayo stood still dazed. Then what does chosen mean now? Zinzi took a step back, eyes narrowing. It's not about sacrifice anymore. That bell, it's looking for a successor. The small bell began to hum, faint, steady. Then from behind them, a quiet voice spoke. I heard it. They turned. In the doorway stood Amara, one of the youngest students in the school, 12, maybe 13, pale, eyes glassy. I heard it in my sleep, she said. The bell, it called me. Chinelo's heart dropped. No, it can't be you. But Amara walked slowly into the room, her gaze locked on the second bell. It told me its name. It said I'm the one who remembers next. Ayo stepped in front of her. You don't have to listen. You're not part of this. I already did, Amara said. I've dreamed this place since before I arrived. I just didn't know the name for it. The second bell began to glow, and as it did, so did Amara's eyes, gold at first, then ink black. A gust of cold air swept through the chamber. The cracked first bell let out a long, low groan, as if warning them all. We need to break the chain, Chinelo said, eyes wild. Now, before it roots again. But the bell spoke through Amara. Break me, and you break the gate. The chamber pulsed, and the second bell rang once. The second bell's ring was softer than the first, like a child's voice echoing through a hollow cave. But its effect was immediate. The ground trembled, the chamber walls bled ink, and Amara collapsed. Chinelo caught her before she hit the stone, but the girl was ice cold. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, revealing not pupils, but the bell's symbol, etched in shimmering gold. She's not possessed, Zinzi murmured. She's linked. Kwame pointed at the floor. A circular pattern had appeared beneath the second bell. Lines and runes etched into the stone like veins. They pulsed with every breath Amara took. It's a seal, Chinelo said, but not for the bell, for something beneath it. She opened the journal, flipping to the newest page that had revealed itself. It showed a tree, massive and ancient, growing upside down beneath the school. At its roots, chained in shadow, was something with too many limbs and no face. The bell isn't the gate, she whispered. It's the key. Ayo backed away. You mean we were never the targets? The school wasn't cursed by Isi. It was cursed by whatever's under us. Zinzi added, and the bells. They're part of keeping it sealed. Not ringing them breaks the loop. But destroying them opens the gate, Chinelo finished. Amara stirred again. Her voice came layered, just like the masks had. If the bell is broken, the bound one will rise. They stared at the second bell. One ring had sounded. How many before the gate opens? Kwame asked. Chinelo's hand trembled as she traced the rune closest to her. There were 5 rings carved, and one had already glowed. 4 more, she said. But this time the clock doesn't reset. From deep below the earth growled, and far beneath the stone something woke up. The growl beneath the floor grew into a rumble. Not like thunder, closer, deeper, more alive. The stone under their feet vibrated, and dust fell from the chamber's ceiling. Amara sat up, but her face was different now, blank, almost serene. Her lips moved without sound until finally she whispered, The roots are loosening. Chinelo stood and stepped between her and the bell. Number, we're not letting it out. But the second bell pulsed again. Another rune on the floor lit up. No sound. Just light. 2 rings. 3 left. Zinzi swore. It didn't even ring that time. It doesn't need to anymore, Kwame said, his voice tight. It's moving faster, feeding on proximity. Ayo scanned the room. We have to get out of here. Chinelo nodded. No, we need to seal it, not escape. If this thing breaks free, the loop will be the least of our problems. She opened the journal, flipping past drawings and rituals until she found a page that shimmered faintly. There, written in red clay ink, was a ritual once performed by Isi's generation. A sealing dance, a story sung not to remember, but to silence. "We have to finish what Isi started," Chinelo said. "Only this time, we don't just trap memory, we bury the gate." "But how do we do that with a child tethered to the key?" Kwame asked, nodding toward Amara. Amara's eyes opened wide. "It chose me for a reason. I'm not the cage, I'm the lock." Chinelo looked at her. "Then you need to fight it." The ground cracked again. This time a root, a black gnarled vine thicker than a man's leg, broke through the stone. More followed. From below, a voice echoed up, "Let me rise, and I will forget you all." The third rune began to glow. The third rune lit like fire. And with it, the chamber floor split wide open. Gnarled black roots burst through the stone, slithering like snakes, covered in ash and ink. They weren't just vines. They pulsed with memory, with faces. Glimpses of students, teachers, and children flashed in their surface, each one whispering forgotten names. Ayo grabbed Amara and pulled her back from the growing crack. Chinelo and Zinzi followed, while Kwame tossed open the only remaining door leading out of the cradle. But it was no longer a door. It was a tunnel. Twisting. Endless. Chinelo looked at the growing vines and the now blazing third rune. "It's rising faster than we thought. We can't outrun it." Amara's voice echoed again, but this time layered with something older. 3 opened. 3 shadows awaken. Ayo asked, "What happens when all 5 light up?" "The gate opens," Chinelo replied, "and the thing Essie sealed, what she traded her name to bury, walks free." Kwame shined his light down the tunnel. "Then we stop it. We find where the vines begin and sever the root." Zinzi looked back at the second bell. "We destroy it?" "No," Chinelo said. "We bury it deeper. We trap it beneath memory, where even the bell can't reach." "But how?" Ayo asked. Chinelo opened the journal again. A new page had formed. It was a map, not of the school, but of something deeper. Beneath it all, under Abongweni, was a forgotten place, the Chamber of Hollow Names. "It's where erased memories are kept," she whispered. "If we take the bell there, we might lose it forever." "But what if we lose more than that?" Zinzi asked. Chinelo stared at the final runes. The roots howled, and the 4th rune lit. Only one left. The bell didn't ring. It laughed. The laughter from the bell wasn't sound. It was pressure, like invisible hands pressing against their skulls, distorting thought, unraveling courage. The 4th rune glowed now. Only one remained. Amara trembled in Ayo's arms, whispering fragments of languages no one understood. Chinelo flipped through the journal desperately, her fingers leaving smears of ink as the pages bled symbols she hadn't seen before. New entries wrote themselves in real time. "The Chamber of Hollow Names is not found. It remembers you." Kwame glanced behind them. The tunnel had changed again. Its walls pulsed like veins, lined with roots dripping black ichor. "Then let it remember us fast, because we're running out of time." They moved as quickly as they could through the tunnel. The deeper they went, the more the world warped. Sound echoed wrong. Their steps left no prints. Their thoughts overlapped, like they were being read. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast underground atrium. At its center stood a well, not of water but of voices. Whispers rose from its depths, weaving into a song none of them could bear to finish hearing. The air was heavy with sorrow. Names hung from the ceiling like paper lanterns, dim and flickering. Some they recognized, friends who had gone missing, teachers who had retired mysteriously. Some were older, foreign, unspoken for decades. Zinzi stepped forward and whispered her brother's name. The lantern bearing it burst into light, then vanished. "He was taken by the bell," she said. We were told it was fever. Io stared at the last rune glowing faintly on his arm. We're running out of names to forget. Chinelo stepped to the well's edge, holding the second bell. I know what to do. She raised it. I give this name back. And the fifth rune flared to life. The fifth rune blazed like a dying star. No ring sounded. No scream. Just silence. A kind that swallowed breath, stilled movement, and stopped time. Then the well responded. From its depths the whispers twisted into one voice, a voice older than language, thick with grief and rage. You dare return what was given? Chinelo stood firm, holding the second bell over the hollow well. I don't return it in fear. I return it in memory. I remember what we took, who we lost, and who we failed. The voice rose, no longer calm. Memory is not yours to wield. You are echoes, dust, cursed to forget. Yet you remember. The chamber pulsed with golden light. Every lantern overhead flickered, then burst into flames. Their ashes spun like a storm and descended into the well. The roots around them screamed, recoiling from the heat. A crack split the earth at Chinelo's feet. A door opened in the stone. Behind it, darkness. Not absence, but depth. Something deeper than death, deeper than dreams. It was the gate. Amara opened her mouth and spoke, not as herself, but as a vessel. The bell was never the danger. The name was. The name no one dares speak. The name erased from blood, from books, from breath. Chinelo looked down into the gate and saw a shape rise, huge, formless, not bound to bone or skin. It looked like smoke sculpted by pain. It wore all their faces. Kwame gasped. It's all the forgotten. The voice rumbled again. Who holds the name? Who will seal it? Io stepped beside Chinelo. Tell it. End it. Chinelo took a breath and whispered into the darkness. My name is Esi Aboagye. The chamber shook, and the gate screamed. The scream from the gate was like nothing they had heard before. It bent the walls, shook the ground, cracked the roots. Even the air seemed to ripple, as if reality itself was trying to turn away. Essie's name had broken something, or woken something. Amara's eyes rolled back and she spoke again, not as herself, but as the voice of the gate. The name has been found. The lock is undone. The weight must now pass. Chinelo fell to her knees, her body trembling under the force of ancestral memory. The name Essie Aboagye was not just hers. It was all of hers. She had lived that life, in another loop, another face, another silence. She had bound the gate once, and forgotten. Until now. Zinzi shouted, We gave the name! Isn't that enough? No, Io said grimly, because names are only part of it. Something was traded to seal the bell. Not just a name. A soul Kwame cursed. You mean a sacrifice? Amara turned to Chinelo, her voice echoing like 1,000 voices layered as one. You opened the gate with your truth. Now truth demands an offering. Memory must not be free. It must be carried. Chinelo looked into the swirling dark of the open gate. She saw the faces of the forgotten, not angry, not vengeful, waiting. I'll go, she whispered. Zinzi grabbed her arm. No, don't say that. There has to be another way. But Chinelo smiled sadly. This is the other way. I sealed it once. This time I seal it forever. She stood, holding the second bell tightly. Let the bell ring once more, she said. Not to bind, not to loop, but to close. She took a step forward. Then a voice stopped her. I'll go instead. It was Io. Chinelo turned in shock. Number, you don't understand. The gate knows me. It has my name. My soul already bears its mark. Ayo stepped forward, standing between her and the swirling maw of the gate. The light from the runes bathed his face, and though the mark on his arm had faded, something deeper glowed behind his eyes. Resolve. I do understand, he said. And that's why it can't be you. Zinzi stepped between them, panicked. "What are you two doing? There has to be another way." Kwame paced in the background, fists clenched. "We don't have time for this. That thing under us is waking. Choose, or it will." Amara remained still, watching, glowing faintly as the second bell pulsed with anticipation. Ayo turned to Chinelo. "You've lived through this. You've borne it alone. If you go now, the memory dies with you. It gets buried again. Forgotten. That's what the curse wants. For history to be erased. But if you go..." Chinelo started. "I remember now," he said. "And I choose." Maybe that's what breaks the cycle. A choice made freely. The gate roared again. A face formed in the dark, shaped like neither man nor God, but lost itself. It reached toward them, one long arm of shadow coiling around the edge of the well. Chinelo's hand trembled. Then Amara, still standing at the threshold of both worlds, raised the bell. She looked at Ayo. "Do you accept?" she asked. Not as Amara, but as the voice of the bound. Ayo looked at all of them. Yes. The bell glowed. The chamber blazed with golden fire, and the darkness opened to receive him. Chinelo screamed, but Ayo was smiling. Then the bell rang once more, and the gate closed. The bell's final ring echoed through the hollow chamber like the breath of something dying or being born. Then silence. The gate, once pulsing with voices and memory, was gone. Vanished. The stone beneath their feet sealed with a flash of blinding light, leaving no mark, no crack, no root. The air, heavy with history, was now light. Still. But Ayo was gone. Chinelo staggered forward to where he had stood. She touched the stone. Still warm. Zinzi fell to her knees. He really did it. He gave himself. Kwame backed away, shaking his head. He didn't have to. We could have. No, Chinelo said. He chose to remember, and that's what broke it. Amara, now fully herself, blinked slowly, as if awakening from a long sleep. Her skin no longer glowed. The mark was gone. The second bell, now cold, sat at her feet like a forgotten toy. She looked at Chinelo. He's not erased. I can still feel him, like an echo. Chinelo clutched the journal, which had begun to change again. Pages turned on their own, then stopped. A new entry formed in fresh ink. The name has been carried. The wait passed. The bell sleeps. Let the world forget, but let the chosen remember. Kwame stepped beside her. What does that mean? It means the curse is broken, for now, Chinelo replied. But memory is fragile. Someone has to keep it alive. She closed the journal. The chamber's lanterns burned one final time, bright gold, and then extinguished themselves. The path back to the school was open again. No ink, no roots, just stone and shadow. They walked slowly. When they reached the courtyard, the sky was no longer locked in midnight. The sun was rising. And far off in the bell tower, rebuilt in the place where there had once been none, a single bell stood, silent, but watching. Morning light bathed Abongweni for the first time in what felt like eternity. The students who had once been caught in the loop emerged from their dorms, rubbing their eyes, unaware that anything unnatural had ever happened. Laughter returned to the halls. Birds sang in the trees. The school breathed again. But for Chinelo, Zinzi, Kwame, and Amara, everything was different. They stood together beneath the archway of the courtyard, looking up at the newly risen bell tower. It hadn't been there before. No construction sounds, no scaffolding, just there, whole, black, watching. It replaced the old one, Kwame said softly, the one that burned. Zinzi added, but this one didn't rise from wood. It rose from memory. Amara stepped forward, her eyes filled with something beyond her years. It's not here to trap anyone. It's here to remember him. Inside her coat, Chinelo held the journal close. It had gone silent again. No new pages. No ink movement. Just stillness. I can't hear the bell anymore, she said. But I can feel its echo. Kwame looked around the courtyard, watching the other students laugh and talk like it was just another school day. Do we tell them? Zinzi shook her head. Who would believe us? Chinelo opened the journal one last time. On the very last page, in Io's handwriting, a page that hadn't existed before, were just 3 lines. If you're reading this, you're the next. Don't forget us. But don't wake the bell. Tears welled in her eyes. She closed the book. Behind them, the bell let out a soundless ring. No noise, just a pulse that passed through their hearts, like a memory brushing against the soul. The loop was over. But the story was not. Abongweni boarding school slipped easily back into routine. Morning assemblies returned. Lessons resumed. Teachers walked the halls with clipboards and tired smiles. The bell rang on schedule, once in the morning, once at lunch, and once in the evening. Nothing more, nothing strange. But for Chinelo, Zinzi, Kwame, and Amara, normalcy was just a well-dressed ghost. They met often in secret, behind the library, on the rooftop at dusk. Beneath the baobab tree Isi had once carved her initials into, now cracked down the middle, split by unseen lightning. They didn't speak of the chamber, not out loud. They didn't mention Ayo's sacrifice in class or share it during student prayer. But they felt it. In every shadow. Every silence. In the way their dreams sometimes replayed the final ring like an unanswered question. Amara had changed the most. She no longer joined her classmates at recess. She wandered the halls at night, not sleepwalking, but searching. Chinelo found her one evening near the base of the new bell tower, barefoot in the moonlight, staring up at the silent bell. It speaks sometimes, Amara whispered. Not in words, in feelings. I know it remembers him. Chinelo didn't ask who. She knew. Zinzi brought old newspapers from town, archived articles that mentioned Abongweni. Most ignored the fire from 1975, but one, yellowed and torn, featured a name none of them recognized. Headmistress Durojaye found dead in bell tower. No foul play suspected. Dated 10 years before the first known loop. It started earlier than we thought, Zinzi murmured. Maybe before even AC. Kwame crossed his arms. Then it was never about just stopping it. No, Chinelo said, closing the newspaper. It's about watching for it. Because sometimes, just before dawn, she heard something deep inside the earth. Not a bell, a breath. 2 months passed, no loops, no ringing at midnight, no new runes. The bell atop the tower remained still, as if carved from stone. Most students forgot the strange week where time had fractured, if they had even noticed it at all. But the silence had weight, and Chinelo felt it growing. She kept the journal beneath her mattress, wrapped in cloth and herbs from the market her grandmother used to visit. It hadn't written anything new since Ayo's final message. Yet sometimes when she touched it, the pages felt warm, waiting. One morning the bell rang 7 times instead of 3. Not loudly, not urgently. But the rhythm was off. Chinelo noticed. So did Amara. Zinzi brushed it off at first, but by sunset, she'd gone through every old bell schedule in the archives and confirmed what Chinelo already knew. It had never rung more than 3 times in one day. Kwame didn't speak much anymore. He'd taken to sitting near the school garden, watching crows gather and whispering old chants under his breath. He claimed they calmed him. Chinelo wasn't sure that was entirely true. That night, Amara knocked on Chinelo's door. There's someone in the tower. Chinelo sat upright. What? I saw them, Amara whispered. Not a student, not a teacher, just standing behind the bell. They climbed the spiral stairs together, flashlights cutting through the dust. The tower door was slightly open. Inside, moonlight spilled through broken panes. The bell loomed above them, still and cold. No one. But etched into the wooden beam behind the bell was a new name. IOB. Fresh, carved by hand. Chinelo ran her fingers across it and felt something press back from inside the wood. The bell hadn't slept. It had been listening. The wood beneath Chinelo's fingers was still warm. Not sun-warmed. Not old wood warm. Alive, warm. Amara stepped back from the carved name. It wasn't there yesterday. Are you sure? Chinelo asked. I checked. I've been checking every day. Wind swept through the broken panes, and for a moment it sounded like breath. One word, pulled through wind and memory. Don't! Chinelo snapped her hand away. Zinzi and Kwame arrived minutes later, flashlights flickering in their hands. Kwame looked at the carving and frowned. We all saw him disappear. No body, no trace. What if he's not dead? Zinzi finished. No, Chinelo said softly. He is, but part of him stayed, not like the others. Not a shadow. A signal. They stood in silence beneath the bell as it loomed above them, heavier than any iron should feel. Then Amara turned her flashlight to the wall opposite Ayo's name. There was another mark, faint, older, buried beneath layers of peeling paint. Another name, Durojaye. Zinzi gasped. The headmistress, the one from the article. Chinelo brushed the dust away, and more marks appeared. Names layered like forgotten grave markers. 30. Maybe more. Kwame whispered, They were all chosen. No, Chinelo replied. They chose themselves. Every time the bell tried to wake, someone stopped it. They carried the burden. Alone. Amara looked at her. What happens when no one chooses? No one answered. That night, Chinelo dreamed of Ayo. He stood in the bell tower, eyes hollow, smiling faintly. Don't let them ring it again, he said. It doesn't want a loop anymore. This time, it wants out. Chinelo woke with a scream, and far away, hidden in the roots of the baobab tree, the journal flipped to a blank page and began to write.